Switching gears over to football, we're worried about what this basketball roster is going to look like and what their preseason ranking is going to be like on the hardwood. Well, football, we got our first Big 12 way too early power ranking of the year. But is it too early? We're done with spring football. Maybe it's not. But our first Big 12 power ranking of the year through CBS Sports and through Shihan Jayaraja, Baylor alum who does really an excellent job of covering all these teams in the Big 12. And we're going to get more into this in the next couple of weeks, but this is a fascinating year of Big 12 football to me. And Shihan actually lays it out in the second paragraph of this. As many as 10 teams have a legitimate shot to make the conference title game. The parity in this conference has been incredible since they redid the Big 12 championship game. I don't think we've had the same two teams in there back-to-back years. We saw a lot of Oklahoma victories, don't get me wrong, but we are seeing new challengers every single year. And with OU out of the conference and having not been in that game in the last couple of years, we're going to see some more of that, I would say. And so now we got 16 teams in the Big 12, and we got to rank 16 of them. Baylor, your Baylor Bears, come in 12th, which if you're splitting this into groups of 4, that leaves them just on the outside of the bottom tier, the bottom 4 of this Big 12 conference. Directly ahead of them, a couple of conference rivals, or in-state rivals, I should say. Tech at 9th, TCU at 10th. Just ahead of them at 11, Colorado Buffaloes. We're going to talk about them in a minute. And behind them, BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and Arizona State. And by the way, if you're looking into this, it is on CBSSports.com. Shihan has Utah number 1, Kansas State and Kansas following them. So Baylor sits at 12. And he does a little write-up for all of these, and I'll just read it word for word. Why not? Baylor hasn't spent much time in the cellar, but a 3-9 campaign was the worst by a returning coach since 2007. Instead of making a change, Baylor's athletic department is making a costly gamble that Dave Aranda can right the ship for a second time in 4 years. Reasons for optimism: they nabbed offensive coordinator Jake Spavital and running backs coach Keenan Hall from ACC schools, which is true. Cal and SMU are now both ACC schools, to transition towards the spread offense. And they took a big swing by added MAC Player of the Year, QB DeQuan Finn from Toledo. Anything short of a bowl game, and Aranda is likely out. But is Baylor up for the challenge? I think so. But I think more so than just looking at Baylor here is looking at the rest of the conference. Like, I look up and down this conference, and all I see are question marks. Right? Like, I talk about the teams ahead of UCF at 8th. I don't know what's coming in there. I like KJ Jefferson, don't get me wrong, but like, I don't know what that is. Tech, I would actually think would be a little bit higher. I think they're going to have that stability under Joey McGuire, and the expectations that we all had for them last year, I think are better suited for this year. TCU at 10, 5-7, 2 of the last 3 seasons, with a miracle season mixed in between there. I do like Josh Hoover. I don't think he's like a guy that leads you to a conference championship game, and he was hurt in spring ball. Do you have to go to a Haas Haney out of Alito as a freshman, a true freshman? Is that the next guy up if Hoover is hurt or gets hurt at some point in the season? Don't know. BYU, really don't know. Really don't know. I love Gary just as much as you. And I would love to see him lead them to success, but I just don't know with that team. I thought they were going to be a better team last year than they were. And then Cincinnati, Houston, Arizona State, like, that's bad. That's bad. Those are bad teams. Baylor beat one of them last year and should have beat a second one. Colorado is one that interests me, right? Ranked right above them. In fact, if you look at Colorado last year, they weren't that much different from Baylor. They were bad. They were 4-8. They finished last in the Pac-12. They obviously had a more dynamic quarterback in Shedeur Sanders. Travis Hunter is probably the best corner in the country, but they had a dreadful offensive line, just horrible running game. They were, I think, the worst rushing team in the Pac-12. They could not run for man. They stunk. And they brought in some new running backs. Of course, they brought in a whole new offensive line, but it's like, we talk about this with Baylor. Offensive line I think chemistry can be overblown in some position groups, not at offensive line. You need those guys playing together, and you need units playing together. And they don't have that luxury. Neither does Baylor, of having these guys having played together for 10 or 12 games going into the season. They don't have that. So I think Colorado, and Baylor could be too, are like teetering on dumpster fire. And that's the thing. A lot needs to go right for Baylor to climb into that top half of the Big 12. But when you look at a team like Colorado and TCU and UCF ahead of them, like, things could go wrong for them. I think things could go wrong with Arizona without Jed Fish. I like Iowa State, who's ranked 6th. I think they're going to finish higher than that. But like, there are combustible teams ahead of them. So should Baylor be in that second to worst tier to start in our first preseason rankings, power rankings of the Big 12? Yes, they should. You can make an argument they could be in the worst tier. I think we're under no illusion that this is a team that, like, we're saying, no, they should be top 4. But what I'm saying is there are combustible teams ahead of them. So these rankings will change, I'm sure, especially once we get close to the season in August. I think we'll start to see more and more, and it will be probably the most diverse power rankings of any conference in the country here in the Big 12. But I think you will see in these bottom tiers, Baylor, at least in the second to bottom, maybe the bottom of these tiers. I think they can prove a lot of people wrong, but a lot of that has to do with how combustible the teams are ahead of them. Anyway, let me know what you think about that. 12th out of 16. Drop that down in the comments below, what you think they should be ranked, and if they nailed it, or if this team's going to win the whole damn thing. Let me know down in the comments below. Let me know what you think about this, how this roster is coming together on the basketball side. I like it. I still think there's work to be done, but the top end talent of this team is as good as anybody in the Big 12. It really is. It's just those pieces of getting the final puzzle pieces together to have them actually be like the top team in the Big 12, because right now there are a couple teams ahead of them, I would say, but that's nothing to sneeze at. I still think they could be a top 5 team. So drop that down in the comments below, what you think about this Jalen Celestine edition. Drop that in there too. Be sure to like and subscribe, ring the notification bell. We'll drop that video to you every day on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you for making it your first listen today and every day. We'll be back tomorrow with more Locked On Baylor.